Live. What's up, everyone? This is a live Blender Q&A and tutorial that we do every single weeknight. What's up, guys? We are live on YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, Kick, and Facebook. What is up, everyone? If you have any Blender questions regarding anything in Blender, you could ask it tonight. I will answer it. What's up, everyone? Hope everyone's having a good Friday or weekend, wherever you're dialing in from. What's up, everyone? All right. Once again, this is a live Blender Q&A. So if you have any questions regarding anything in Blender, you could ask it tonight. Again, we do this every weeknight. Hope everyone's having a great Friday and weekend. Yo, what's up, Skirk? What's up, guys? By the way, everyone, we are live on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, and Kick. I just pinned a comment. You could join in the Zoom. To join in the Zoom, just go to zoom.com and type in the ID 871-7575-3957. And you'll be able to ask questions and see everything in full screen. All right, so if anyone has any questions regarding anything in Blender, once again, you could ask it tonight, and I will answer it. So let's kick it off. Where's everyone dialing in from, by the way? I want to create a character. Where should I start? Skirk asks. What kind of character are you trying to create, Skirk? A human character or what kind of character? And also, are you trying to model it or sculpt it? Depending on what kind of character you're trying to create, first thing that you want to do, no matter what it is you want to get reference images. So once you get reference images, again, Skirk is asking, I want to create a character. Where should I start? So you want to get some reference images of the character. And then what you want to do is create the major loops for the character. So again, the major loops are basically the loops that comprise most of the character, and then you could basically connect the rest of the character up very easily. For example, here, let me get some images with some major loops over here. So give me a second. Let me get it. If I could find it in my thousands of folders. What's up, guys? Once again, this is a live Blender Q&A and tutorial. So let me get my reference images. There we go. So for example, here I have a reference image of human. Yeah, human. Should I model it or use some add-ons to create the base? So again, Skirk's question is, let me see, where's this? He says he wants to create a character. Where should he start? So he wants to create a human-based character. So my friend, what I recommend is getting reference images first. If you go to Google Images, and let me open a new tab. Give me a second. If you go to Google Images and type in 3D character with major loops. So in Google Images, you could type in 3D character with major loops. And here you could get some good reference images of the major loops of the character. For example, right here, you can see that this one. So I would get a couple of reference images with the major loops. As you can see right here, there's some right there. Here, there's one for the face. And here, there's a bunch. There's some on Google. You could search Google Images or on YouTube. But again, get some reference images with the major loops, such as I have right here. And then once you have that, really, you just want to go ahead and block out these major loops, because then you're able to quickly connect the rest of the character. So as you can see here, I have a front view of the character with major loops. And if I open a reference image for the side as well, right here. So right here, what I'm able to do is I could then just start to easily, and let me align this a little bit more. So right here with the major loops, all you're going to do is you're going to add a plane. And of course, a character is symmetrical, usually. So the first thing you want to do is get some reference images. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to have the major loops, the reference images. You just want to know where the major loops will be roughly. And again, it will differ depending on people's styles. But once you know the major loops, for example, here we have a major loop around the abdomen, one around the shoulder area, one around the elbow area, and one around the wrist right there. So right here, we could quickly start to block this out. Again, a character is symmetrical, so you'll want to add a mirror modifier. For example, right here, I'm going to add a mirror modifier. Mirror, So mirror right here. And right here, let me turn on clipping. You're going to see how fast this can be once you have the major loops. Because a lot of times people think they have to model the character and it's very complex. But it's really not if you do the major loops first. And I'm going to show you how easy it is. So right here, for example, I could just go ahead and start to extrude this and align it in side view as well. And basically, I'm just drawing the outline of this reference image. Now right here, I'm going kind of fast. So again, E key to extrude it. And then in side view, you want to bring it back. So in front view, you extrude it. And then in side view, you want to align it in side view as well. You could also extrude it in side view. And then in front view, align it in front view. So right here, you can see that we're starting to get this. And of course, right here, I'm not necessarily going to spend too much time on this as I'm just showing. But then right here, I would just connect this like so. And then I could just add, let's say 3 loop cuts right here. And I'm going to hit Alt S to kind of fatten it. And then I could kind of edge slide this. And again, I'm not taking my time here. I'm going a little bit faster just to show you the importance of the major loops. So right here, I have this major loop right here. So then we just need the major loop for the shoulder area. So right here, I would do the same thing because again, sometimes people take a character and instead of doing the major loop, they'll just, start extruding this, which is a method of doing it. You could definitely do it this way as well. But I find that you get better topology and better loop flow if you define the major loops first. So for example, right here, I'm just going to start to define this loop right here. And of course, we want to move it in side view as well. So right here and right here, like so, and like so. And once again, we are just getting the loop that goes around the shoulder, like so. So you can see that it's very simple. And one thing you want to keep in mind is when you create these loops, you want them to be these relatively the same amount of vertices. For example, or edges. If this loop is 12 edges, I would want this one to be 12 edges as well, because then that allows for you to connect everything seamlessly. So as you can see here, I'm just going from front view to side view and then back to front view. Like I said, I'm not really, I'm doing this a little bit fast. So right here, you can see I could go over here and adjust it like so and like so. So let's say you have this whole loop right here. So again, I would spend a little bit more time adjusting it properly because you can see that this is a little bit of a mess. And let me connect these right here. So F key, and then I'll add 2 loop cuts right here, Alt S, and scale it up. So basically what I have right here is just this. As you can see, I have a loop for the torso and a loop for the shoulder area. I'm going to create one more loop, and then I'll show you how easy it is to connect it. So right here, I'm just going to create the loop for the elbow. Now for this, since I already have a loop here, I could just Alt left click this vertex loop. I can hit Shift D. Again, remember I said we want to make sure that it has the same amount of edges. So right here, I'm just going to hit SX0 to flatten it out. I'm going to scale it down. And here I'm going to have the loop for the elbow area. And let me extrude it. So let's just say that this is the loop for the elbow area. So now we have this, dang it, Shift H. We have this right here. And now for connecting it, it's as easy as filling the in-between areas of the loops. So right here, for example, from the shoulder to the elbow, I could just Alt left click, Alt Shift left click these two edge loops, and I could go to Edge and Bridge Edge Loops right there. And then I could hit Control R, add in like 3 loop cuts, left click, right click, and then Alt S, scale this down a little bit, and then obviously adjust this a little bit more how I would need. So, you would adjust this a little bit. But you can see how fast it was to connect for the arm. And then same thing with this area right here. So this area here, I would just start to connect this. So for example, I would select the opposing edges and hit the F key to fill it. Obviously, you don't want these to be skewed like that necessarily. You want to kind of align it. But right here, I would just go ahead and start to fill this up. So for example, here, we could go ahead and do some grid fills. So I could select this one here, extrude it all the way to here. And then here you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 edges. So we need 5 edges up here. So I could hit Control R, add in 4 loop cuts. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then on this side, we have 1, 2, 3 edges. So over here, I'm going to fill this and add 2 loop cuts. So we have 3 edges. And then I could just Alt left click this, go to face and grid fill right here. And boom, I could just grid fill it like that. And now I'm starting to have the chest. Obviously, you can see it's like caved in or whatever. So obviously, we could go ahead, grab it with proportional editing and adjust it as needed, as you can see right there. So right here, could kind of adjust this. I could also just select all these, right click, smooth vertices. So kind of smooth the vertices and just adjust it a little bit. Let me turn off proportional editing. There we go. And then I could do the same thing for the top over here. So for the top, and you can see how fast it can be to create a character. It also helps because you now have proper topology and loop flow. So right here, for example, I could just go ahead, once again, extrude this out, add in 4 loop cuts here, fill this, and then Alt left click this, go to face, grid fill, and fill that right there. And then I can hit Alt S and kind of fatten that up a little bit. And there we go. Obviously, it needs a lot of tweaking and a lot of work, but you can see that by doing this, you're able to quickly model or block out your character. So hopefully that helps you, my friend. Shannon says, why do you have a brassiere curve rather than an object circle in my sci-fi scene? Not sure what you mean, bro. All right, does anyone have any questions on that? So again, when you model, you want to kind of get the major loops first, and that will help you to basically block out the character. So get the major loops first, and then you could quickly start to block out a character very easily. All right, does anyone have any questions on that or any other questions? So again, when you're making a character, try to get some reference images and see where the major loops are. And then you could just quickly connect them. And then, for example, you could, of course, just extrude some areas. For example, here, you could easily extrude that, add a couple loop cuts, and then hit Alt-S, etc. All right, hopefully that answers your question, my friend. Does anyone have any other questions? Does anyone have any other questions? Again, the questions can be anything. It could be something simple in Blender, geometry nodes, shader nodes, whatever you want. Again, there are no stupid questions. Everyone is at different levels, so it's totally fine. Once again, guys, you could join in the Zoom to be able to see in full screen and also to ask questions a little bit easier. But for whoever asked for modeling a human character, hopefully that helps you out, my friend. All right. Let me see. Where's my dog food? You said no stupid questions. That's funny, Shannon. I got an email like a couple days ago saying my dog food. I got like a spam email about dog food. So Ethan says, can you turn an edge into a window so that each segment is its own window? Do you mean with geometry nodes, Ethan, or is that what you mean? Using geometry nodes, yes. Hey, Alex, question. What's the best way to find your Blender files? I can't find nada. Do you mean my Blender files or the Blender files that you save? So Ethan's question is, can you turn an edge into a window so that each segment is its own window? Yeah, you could do that, my friend. So let me show you quickly. So again, Ethan's question is to turn an edge into a window so that each edge is a window using geometry nodes. So let me show that here. Okay, there we go. All right. So to turn each edge into a window using geometry nodes, very, very easy. So all you want to do, obviously, go to geometry nodes. And here I'm going to add a new geometry nodes. And I'm going to add a grid right here. So here, to turn each edge into a window, and again, I'm not exactly sure how you want to turn it into a window, but right here, basically, we want to create a point on each of the edges. So I'm going to get a mesh to points right here. So a mesh to points. And I'm going to change this from vertices to edges right here. And actually, that's not what I want. So let me see. Let me see actually how I want it. Let me actually think about this a little bit. So right here instead, let me see which node I want to use. Let me see. Because I forgot that geometry nodes triangulates everything, so that's not going to work that way. Let me see. Let me see. We could use an edge neighbors, I guess. All right, let's just do that. So right here, if I get a separate geometry, so separate geometry, right here, I could separate it by the edges, and out of the selection, if I get a compare node, I could get a edge neighbors, and let me see, there we go. So basically, if you get a separate geometry, and in fact, we could just, we don't even need the separate geometry necessarily. Let me see how I want to do it. Let me try to just get a mesh to points. Mesh to points. And let me do that. Yeah. No, I'm not good. All right, let me see. It's funny. It sounds like such a simple thing, which I'm sure it is, but let me see if I can't separate out the edges here. And let me see if this works. Instance on points. And then right here. Yeah, that's not going to work how I want. All right, give me a second to think on this one because for some reason I'm spacing out on this one, but it should be really simple, but for some reason I'm spacing out on it. So give me a second to think on that, and then I'll have it, I'm sure. No worries, man. I couldn't figure it out. You're doing better than I did. Not really, because I didn't do it. It's not better than you did until you do it. There's many ways to go about it. I mean, by the way, does anyone have any questions in the meantime? And right here, I'm going to kind of mess with it and see what I can do. I mean, let me see. There's many ways to do it. We could move it along the normals. So for example, if you do an instance on points like so, and add a cube. Let me see if this will work. And let me, yeah, I mean, I'll mess around with it. For some reason, I'm blanking out, although it should be the simplest thing. But you could also add it on the edges and basically translate the instances along the normals of the edges. I'm sure it'll come to me in like 2 seconds, but I'm blanking out right now. So, all right. Does anyone have any questions regarding anything in Blender? Again, there are no stupid questions. Questions can be simple. What's up, Ab? It could be about geometry nodes, shader nodes, texturing, animation, whatever you want. Mouthpiece says, let me be more specific. I mean, when you download and install add-ons, even when I try to create an asset in the asset library, I'm having the hardest time finding them. Assets and add-ons. I mean, in the asset library, you're able to search for them, my friend. So if you go to the asset browser, you're able to search for your assets up here. If you rename your assets, you shouldn't have a hard time finding them. For example, if I'm looking for the curved root, I could just search for root, and yeah, it shouldn't be too hard. Let me know if that answers your question. All right, guys, once again, this is a live Blender Q&A. If you have any questions regarding anything in Blender, feel free to ask it. Again, it could be a question about anything. And now I'm stuck on Ethan's freaking geometry node thing. I'm like, what the hell? That's funny. So, all right, does anyone have any questions regarding anything? Rain effect, Ab says. Sure, I could show you how to do a rain effect. So Ab is asking how to do a rain effect. And by the way, Ethan, I'm going to figure out the edge thing and I'll share the dubline with you after this. Because I'm blanking out or just doing something wrong, obviously. So the question is how to do a rain effect in Blender. Very simple. So what you want to do is add a plane. And on this plane, go ahead and add in an emission. So add an emitter like so. Then all you want to do is add in your raindrop. So for that, I like to use an icosphere. So I'm just going to use an icosphere. And actually, we could even use a UV sphere as well. So I could add a UV sphere. And then with proportional editing on, select the top vertex, turn on proportional editing, and make it a raindrop shape, like so. Then all of this is going to come down to the materials. So I'm just going to shade that smooth, move it to the side. And on the particle system, under render, we're going to change this to object. And the instance object is going to be this sphere. Then we could also change the scale randomness. So we could change this so that we have random raindrop sizes. And we could put the scale down to like 0.02 or whatever you want. So now you can see that we get this rain effect right here. Now, like I said, all of this is going to come down to the material that you have on your raindrop. So on the raindrop, we could go over here and add a new material to it. So new material, 5 hours later. And right here in the shader editor, we could go ahead, not mute it. We could put the transmission to 1 to make it transparent. If you're an Eevee, you want to make sure over here to turn on subsurface, not subsurface, you want to turn on the ray trace refraction. And in the render settings under screen space reflections, you want to turn that on and turn on refraction as well, right here. Then you could change the roughness however you want, if you want it to be more or less transparent. The IOR of water is 1.333, so you want to put 1.333. And then, of course, you could give it a slight bluish color as well. Now, another thing that will help is right now, the water has no thickness to it. So down here in Eevee, you can see that we have this refraction depth option. And let me add a floor so that we can actually see what's happening here. And let me change my light. So sun lamp, value of 4. So right here, we could change the refraction depth. This is basically faking the thickness of the transparent material. So you can see here, if I increase the depth, it will have more refraction or less refraction. So you could kind of mess around with this. For a raindrop, I would increase the refraction a little bit, like so. And then, of course, you know, this is a raindrop, so it's not necessarily going to be completely smooth. So another thing we could do is out of the normal, we could add a bump node. And then we could add a noise texture from the height to give it a little bit of unevenness. And again, you're not even really going to see a lot of this because the raindrops are so tiny. What if I want the raindrops to interact, collide with the objects they hit? How did you learn to use Blender, Alvaro says. I've been doing it for 15 years, so mainly self-taught, a couple of tutorials. How to make a wood texture, Alvaro says. I could show you that in a second. And Ab, if you want it to interact or collide with the objects they hit, I would use the dynamic paint. So I would use dynamic paint for them to collide. And then right here, you could put the scale down to like 2 or 3. Put the distance down to 0.01. Maybe increase this a little bit. And here you can see that we have a little bit of roughness to the raindrop. Maybe I could put the roughness down a little bit, like so. And so now, from here, you can see that we have all these raindrops. Now, again, they are very, very tiny, so we can't really see them. But yeah, Ab, for the raindrops colliding and hitting an object, I would just use dynamic paint. So with dynamic paint, I would just go ahead and make the floor or whatever it's hitting the canvas. So you could make it a canvas and make your object the brush, not canvas, remove canvas. So make the object your brush, and then it will be, the raindrops will dynamically interact with whatever is the canvas. So I would do it that way. What is dynamic paint? Ethan asks. So I'll answer that. I'll answer what dynamic paint is, and then I'll show how to make a wood texture. So dynamic paint is, let me go over here. Dynamic paint is really cool for certain effects. So for example, here, if I add a plane, scale it up, you can see under the physics tab, we have dynamic paint. Basically, we're able to have a canvas and a brush. So the canvas is what will be painted on. The brush is what will do the painting, obviously. So right here, this will be a canvas. You can see we have canvas or brush. So if I click add canvas, we've added the canvas. And then if I add, let's say, a UV sphere and move it to the side, I could animate this UV sphere. So to add a keyframe there, and then move it over like that and hit the I key. So now this is moving like that. If I make this UV sphere a brush, so right here, this will basically dynamically affect the mesh. So right here, we could make it paint on the mesh, or we can make it displace the mesh. For example, if I change this to displace, you will see I need to add more geometry. So if I subdivide my plane like so, you will see that dynamically, here it's painting, but it's basically displacing the mesh, as you can see right there. We also have, waves. So we could create this kind of wave effect like so. And you could also paint on it. So with this, it will actually paint a color on your mesh. Now, for the painting, let me see. It's been a while since I've used it for painting, so I feel like I'm forgetting one step to make it paint on here. I do know I have to unwrap it, and yeah, I'm forgetting the exact step for it to actually paint. I'm not sure if they changed something as well, but let me check here quickly if I can't get it working. I think I need it as an image sequence. But I should be able to paint the vertices. So yeah, it's been a while. I've done several tutorials on dynamic paint and using the paint effect and everything, but I'm not sure if they either changed a setting or I'm just forgetting a setting, but you're able to actually make it paint onto your surface as well, which is really, really cool. Let me see. Initial color, maybe it's the UV texture. Yeah, I'm forgetting exactly, but if you want, I have a bunch of tutorials on using dynamic paint, and basically you're able to dynamically paint onto your surface, and it is really, really cool. So the thing is with the rain effect, when the rain comes down, it could basically dynamically add a material to it. So that image data has a place to be stored. Do you need to add a material onto the square? No, you usually don't, because right now you could save this as an image sequence. So you could have it as an image sequence, but you could also paint it directly onto the vertices. Now, again, I am clearly missing a step because right here it's not working. Let me see if I select my UV map. Yeah, I'll have to brush it up. It's been a long time since I've used dynamic paint, honestly. But I do use it for displacement, and you can use it for waves and stuff. Very useful to create some ripple effects in your geometry, as you can see right there. But you could also use it for actually painting an effect onto your canvas. So there's no need to bake anything, Abbas. Well, no, there is. So basically with dynamic paint, as you can see right here, you could paint it onto the vertices. You usually don't want to do that because otherwise you need to subdivide your plane a bunch of times. So instead, you could have it as an image sequence. So you're able to basically bake it as an image sequence. And right here, let me see if I could bake it quickly. Maybe it will work. Paint right here, paint, accept. So you're able to bake it as an image sequence. And with this image sequence, you don't need a bunch of geometry on your canvas. So yeah, you do need to bake. I don't recommend, unless you're displacing the geometry, I don't recommend using the vertex. I recommend using an image sequence because obviously to displace the geometry, you need a bunch of vertices. But if you're not displacing it, you're not going to need all those vertices. So I suggest having it as an image sequence. All right, let me see if it worked or not. So yeah, there you go. See, it worked here. So you can see that here, it's basically baked the image sequences of the dynamic paint. Let me open it here and let me scroll through it. So you can see here, if I scroll through this, we have this here. So let me load it in as an image sequence. So right here, let me add this right here. I keep muting nodes instead so that you guys could see what this does. So here, if I get image texture, and here I'm going to open the image sequence, desktop, paint, the image sequences right here. So you can see here, let me cyclic and auto refresh. There we go. So you can see here, it's now painting onto the surface. So this is the brush and this is the canvas. And we now have this paint effect. By the way, guys, when you load it as an image sequence, make sure to turn on cyclic and auto refresh. Otherwise, it's not going to work, as you can see right there. So turn on cyclic, which makes it loop, and auto refresh is going to refresh it for every frame. But now you can see that we got this awesome paint effect right here. So this is how it would do the raindrops effect, AB. And again, this is really cool because you could really do anything with this. For example, if I have a curve, and let me draw my curve here. So I'm just going to draw a curve like that. And I'm going to select this sphere. And let me go to the timeline, delete these. And right here, I'm going to go ahead and shift S, selection of cursor. Let me bring it over here. Let me just do a quick little animation here. So I have this right here, the sphere following the path. So now I could select this and let me rebake this. So bake image sequence. So now it's going to bake it. Yeah, you'll want to bake it. It says, okay, got it. Yeah. So that you can use it to create paint effects on your mesh or displace the mesh. If you're going to paint on it, I recommend using it using the image sequence and not the vertex one. Because the vertex, you're going to need a lot of vertices. So right here, if I reopen this, right here, and cyclic auto refresh. So now you can see, guys, that this is painting dynamically on the mesh, which is really sweet. So yeah, that's what I would do with the raindrops. All right, does anyone have any questions on that? Seems like a good way to make footprints. Absolutely. Yeah, for the footprints, you can make it displace, which would be really cool. Or just if you want wet footprints, yeah, it's definitely a good way. Can't see anything. Okay, you're back. Awesome. All right, does anyone have any questions on dynamic paint? All right, awesome. Let's see. Now I'm going to get into, someone had a question on how to make a wood texture. So let me Let me get into that. How to make a wood texture, Alvaro was asking. So again, guys, that's dynamic paint. If you want it to paint again on your canvas, change it to image sequence. Then down here under initial color, you want it to be UV map. And then the output also UV map. And then of course on your brush, you could change the color, etc. There's a bunch you could do with it. All right. So how to make a wood texture. So here, let me show how to make a simple procedural wood texture. Let me go into shading. By the way, guys, if you want to see in full screen or ask questions or anything, go to Zoom. A bit off topic for your shorts. Do you have a script that you read for the voiceover? No, I don't have a script. If I had a script, it would be, I wouldn't be able to do it, and it would sound very scripted. But yeah, it would be harder for me to do it. I just go off of what I know and off the cuff. All right, so the question was how to make a procedural wood type material. So there's many different ways to do it. I'll just show you a simple way to do it here. So for example, if we wanted to make some wooden floorboards, let's say. So here, out of the base color, I'm going to get a noise texture. So noise texture right here. And on this noise texture with Node Wrangler enabled, I'm going to hit Control-T, add a mapping and texture coordinate node. I'm then going to change it to object. And then here, what I want to do is I want it to be basically kind of like a sanded down wood or whatever it's called. I forgot the technical term. But basically wood with the grain kind of stretched. So all I'm going to do is on the scale, I'm going to put the Y scale to 0.1. And now you can see that it gives me this kind of stretched grain wood effect. I could then change the scale on the noise texture. I could increase the detail so that it has more noise. So you can see with the detail at 15, it looks like that. And if I put the detail down, it looks like that. I could also increase the roughness, which is basically going to rough up the noise. So you can see once again what happens if I do that. So now I have this kind of grained wood look. Then I want the color for the wood. So I'm going to add a color ramp and drop that in here. All I'm going to do is simply change the black color to a light or to a dark brown color, like so. I'm going to hover my mouse over here and hit Control-C to copy it. Go to this one and hit Control-V to paste it. But on this one, I'm going to scroll my mouse wheel up and make it a little bit lighter. Then, as always, guys, the magic is in the bump. So out of the normal, we're going to get a bump node. This is going to give the illusion of bump and crevices and depth. And I'm going to plug the factor into the height. So now I have this kind of look right here. Of course, I'm going to put the distance down to like 0.1, so that's not so intense. Then let's say I want this as a floorboard. Well, I'm just going to hit Shift-A. I'm going to get a wood, a wave texture right here. And with this wave texture, I'm going to plug the generated directly into here and Control Shift left click to preview this. So here you can see I have this right here, which is the perfect mask for some floorboards. I could put the scale down to like 2 or maybe 1. And then right here, I want to contrast this. I want the white part is going to be the wood and the black parts is going to be the crevices in between the wood. So I'm going to add a color ramp. And I'm going to change this from linear to constant. So now there is no fall off between the black and the white. So I have a sharp fall off or a constant fall off. So I have this right here. And I could increase the scale how I want. And then if I go over here and we could have 2 bump nodes, but instead I could just mix the noise texture with this color ramp. So I'm going to get a mix color, drop it right here. And I'm going to plug the noise into B. And I'm going to plug this color ramp into A. So once again, guys, if I Control-Shift left click this, you can see with it set to mix, a factor of 0 is 100% the color ramp or the floorboards. A factor of 1 is 100% the noise. I'm going to change this from mix to multiply. And now it's going to multiply the floorboards on top of this. And again, the reason it does this is because keep in mind that a white color, so white is a value of 1. So all these white colors are a value of 1. Black is a value of 0. So all of these are 0. So when we are multiplying, we're multiplying this on top of this. So what's happening is it's multiplying anything that's within here, within these areas, is getting multiplied by 1. So whatever these values are times 1 is going to be the same values. But these values where the black is are multiplied by 0. And anything times 0 is going to be 0. So these are all going to be a value of 0 or black. And so now we get this right here. So some kind of wooden floorboards, just like that. 5 hours later. And there we go. Now, of course, right here, I'd like the part in between the floorboards to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to hit Shift-A. I'm going to get a mix color and drop that after the color ramp. And then right here, I could use this, 5 hours later, I could use this color ramp as the factor. So once again, guys, factor of 0 here is going to be this right here. Factor of 1 is going to be the white color right here. So if I plug this into it, anything that is white is going to be slot B. And anything that is black is going to be slot A. So I actually want to invert this. So I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to plug this into the factor right here. So now if I preview this, you can see that in between the planks is going to be this color. And I could change this to, let's say, a dark brownish color. In fact, I could just copy this color here, this one right here, copy, paste it here, and make it slightly darker, like so. And Control-Shift left click the principal BSDF to get the bump. Excuse me. 5 hours later, and there we go. Maybe I want this a little bit darker. And then here I could adjust this if I want. Let's say I want these to be a little bit thinner because it's a little bit thick. So right here, like so. There we go. And now we have a nice little wooden procedural wood plank material. Now, a cool node I like to use is the RGB curves. Let's say we don't like the color of this. Well, we could spend time adjusting and tweaking the colors, but with an RGB curves, we could quickly just darken this. Can you tell how to create water drops? That's funny. I just went over that. I literally just showed how to make water drops just before. Surya, for the water drops, since I just went over it, literally two questions ago, someone asked how to make water drops and water drop effect. This live will be recorded and it will be on my YouTube channel. So if you're able to, just go to that recording and it's one of the first questions and I show how to create water drops. But you can see here, guys, with the RGB curves, I could quickly kind of change this and make it like a nice mapley color or whatever kind of color I want, which is really, really sweet. So there you go. That is obviously with wood, there's 100 different wood materials you can make, but this is a really cool little floorboard, again, procedural floorboard material that we got here. And then we could adjust the scale of this, as you can see right there, etc. And what's cool is if I scale this up, you can see it's completely procedural. So, we could add this on anything. When will you start the car modeling tutorial, please? I'll start it soon, my friend. Like I said, after BlendCon, because BlendCon is coming up next week, and I'll be doing it after that. So whoever was asking about the wood, whoever had the wood question, hopefully that helps you. Seems like a good way to make footprints. Oh, I already read that. So hopefully that helps you. All right, I'll take one more question or so, and then we will end off. When is the next Blender Mania main competition? Yeah, I gotta announce that, man. I haven't announced it yet. I think we're gonna do a short competition for this month and do a main contest. But I'll be announcing that here this weekend. For sure. Thanks for reminding me. Does anyone have any questions on this wood material or texture or what I just went over? And again, guys, you can feel free to adjust this as you want to your needs, obviously. Another cool texture that you can layer on top of this is if you get another wave texture. So if we get another wave texture right here, we could basically layer this, but on this one we could distort it. So we could give it some distortion like so, and bring the detail up, and the detail scale, bring that up, kind of distort it like so to give it a little bit of randomness into the wood. And then here I could duplicate this multiply node and plug this into here, into B, and we could kind of do something like that. Is there any way you can keep the Saturday hop a bit early, like maybe an hour or so early? What do you mean by that? To put it earlier? Is that what you mean? I can't put it earlier because that is the time that it's at. I mean, that sounds like a stupid reason, but yeah, I can't put it earlier because I got a bunch of other stuff to do before and after. So putting it earlier is not really possible, unfortunately. And maybe I want to put this into the factor instead. Again, guys, right now I'm just messing around with this. I don't even know. I don't even know what I'm doing. Oh, there we go. We got some burnt wood. Yeah, interesting. That's actually kind of interesting. Let me add a color ramp in between this to kind of. All right. Does anyone have any questions, by the way? Because right now I'm just messing around. Ab, I can't do it earlier, my friend, because I got other things that I'm doing earlier, and then I have things that I'm doing after, so I can't really do it earlier, unfortunately. Does anyone have any questions about anything? I'll answer one more question, and then we will end off. Again, you could ask questions about geometry nodes, shading, animation, modeling, whatever you want, as I mess around with this texture here. At this point, I'm not even sure what I'm doing, but, I'm doing something. Again, guys, as you start to stack nodes, you get some really interesting looks. Not really the look I was going for, but, it is kind of interesting, I guess. All right. Does anyone have any questions regarding anything? Ab says it's all right, man. Let me check on YouTube and stuff. Nope. All right. Well, hey, if no one has any questions, we will end off here in a second. Can you elaborate on the follow path constraints? Definitely, man. So Ab is asking about the follow path constraints. Let me just finish whatever I'm doing. All right, I'm not really doing anything. All right, let me go to the follow path constraints. Yeah, I'm not really sure where I was going with this anymore. All right, so Ab is asking about the follow path constraint. So it's rather easy, but basically, if you add a curve right here, by the way, guys, a really cool way to add a curve, if you go into edit mode and delete all the vertices of a curve, you could get the draw option for the curve, and you could just draw your curve however you want, like so. All right, so Ab was asking about the follow path constraint. So right here, if I go to my cube, I could go to the constraints. That's not the constraints, the constraints. And right here, you can see that we have a follow path constraint right here. So this one, as you can see, if you select your path, it allows for you to follow, as the name implies, follow your path. Once you select your path, you'll want to click on Animate Path right here. And once you do, you can see that your object will basically follow along the path. I mean, it really is as simple as that. Obviously, here we have follow curve. So basically, as it says, the object will follow. Well, actually, that's a little bit more complicated. It will basically follow along the tangents or the direction that the curve is pointing in. So, for example, a curved tangent is basically the direction that a curve is pointing in. So, for example, right here, this is the tangent for this curve. Right here, this is the tangent for this curve. This is the tangent for this curve, etc. Again, the curve tangent is basically the direction or the perpendicular direction, not perpendicular, sorry, what's the word? The parallel direction to the curve handle. So the tangent doesn't intersect with the curve like that. It's always going parallel or in the same direction as the curve, as you can see right there. So this option right here, basically follow curve, makes the object, as you can see, it is turning with the curve. Whereas if I don't have this, let me actually go in the middle right here. You can see if I don't have it, it's not turning with the curve, as you can see right there. And if I enable it, it's turning with the curve. Then right here, fixed position. Honestly, I've never used this. So let me see, what does this do? Object will stay locked to a single point somewhere along the length of the curve, regardless of time. And then curve radius, I've never used this either. Object is scaled by the curve radius. Okay, that's kind of cool. So the curve radius, it will be scaled by the radius of the curve. So if you select a segment of the curve, and let's see, how do you scale a curve again? I believe it's control. Was it, how the heck do you scale a curve again? I forgot. Control A or Control T? Let me see. Curve. Let's see, where is it? Radius, Alt S. That's what I was pressing on. Okay, well, I don't know why it wasn't working. I was pressing Alt S. I think I was pressing Alt A. All right, so Alt S, you could change the radius of the curve. So here with this curve radius, it will be affected by the radius of the curve. As you can see right here, since I increased the radius of that curve, it increases it. That's actually kind of cool. I learned something new. I've actually never used that before, but pretty cool. And then, of course, right here, you have the axes. So this is basically how you want to orient your object, depending on how your object is rotated, etc. Now, we do have some other options. If we go to the curve and we go to geometry or path animation right here, you can see that we have options under path animation. The first option is frames. So basically, the frames is going to be how many frames it takes for it to finish the curve. So right here, you can see by frame 100, it's basically finished the whole curve. If we put this to like 10, it's going to take 10 frames to finish the whole curve. Or if we put 500, obviously it's going to take 500 frames to finish the whole curve. Then we have clamp right here. This will basically make it so that at the end of the curve, it will stop. Because right now you can see that it continues. But if we turn on clamp, it will basically stop at the end of the curve, as you can see right there. And then follow, I've never used follow either. Make curve path children rotate along the path. So yeah, that's if you have children, you could change that as well. So that's basically the curve path constraint. Again, allows for you to make your object follow along a path. And you have some other options on the curve under path animation if you want it to go slower or faster. And obviously you have your options under your constraint as well, right here. You could also animate the influence. For example, let's say on frame 1 to 50, I don't want this to be animated along the path. Well, I could put this influence to 0, and then all the way to frame 50, I could put it to 0 as well. And then I can move to frame like 70 and increase this to 1. So now I've animated that where from frame 1 to 50, it basically does nothing. However, you can see that right here, it's kind of skipping it. So maybe not the best way to do it. Let me see if I click animate path, if it recalculates it. Yeah, maybe not the best way since it's skipping that. But hopefully that answers your question. Okay, got it, Ab says. In the pull-out menu on the right, Ethan says. What? I'm not sure what that means, my friend. All right, guys. So with that, again, guys, tomorrow at 12 noon, we have a live Blender contest. Anyone is welcome to come watch or participate. Again, it's going to be at 12 noon PST tomorrow. So it's basically, let me see. It's going to be 17 hours from now. So 17 hours from now, we have a live Blender contest, whatever time that is for you. 17 hours from now. And again, anyone can come watch or participate. Never mind, I was talking about scaling verts. Okay. All right, man. See you during the Hop Live. Definitely, Ab. So with that, guys, the official site is blendermania3d.com. I appreciate you all. I hope everyone has a great weekend. And we'll see everyone for tomorrow's live contest. So see you guys. Keep on blending. Ciao for now. Au revoir.